Hey viewers, I was working on this bike and I noticed there's a weird wobble in the rear hub. Let me show you. So notice how the freewheel is kind of wobbling around relative to the wheel and the frame. And it's not just the freewheel, it's the whole hub. And it's sort of an eccentric wobble. It's not directly related to the rotation of the wheel. So I'm going to try to figure out what the issue is. Now I don't think it's a bent axle because as I rotate the axle like this, it turns pretty centered like that. And if it was bent, it would kind of be off center when it turned. Now as I spin the wheel like this, it's sort of bouncing around as it rotates. So I think there's some sort of damage inside, maybe the bearings or the cone or the race or some sort of. Anyway, I'm going to take it apart and see what's going on the inside there. I'm going to start by removing the freewheel here. So I have a freewheel remover tool for this. It's a Sun Tour, so it's got the 2-notch type remover tool. And so I'll put that on there. And for these kind of notch type removers, I like to hold them on with the nut because otherwise they have a tendency to slip and strip out the notches there. So put that on there. And this shouldn't be too tight because I just put it on there the other night when I was working on this freewheel. But so use my big wrench here and turn this counterclockwise, and yeah, it's pretty loose. So I haven't ridden the bike yet. Okay, now I can remove this nut here, and then I could just unscrew this freewheel with the tool here, and then put this out of the way. Now before I remove all the parts from the axle here, I want to measure how much axle is sticking out here. And on this side, it's about 22 millimeters. And on this side, it's about 17 or 18 millimeters. So they're uneven. When I put it back together, I'm going to probably do about 20 millimeters on each side so that they're even. If you have a quick release axle, again, you want to measure both sides so that they're even on both sides. Now I'm ready to start taking this apart here. So I'm on the non-drive side. I'm going to start over here. And I got a cone wrench here, and this is a 15 millimeter. Yours might be different. And so I'll go ahead and start removing this lock nut. And in fact, it's already loose. So I'm going to remove the lock nut, and then I'll work on removing the cone. So there's the lock nut. I'll put that aside. And then there's a washer here. And get this off of here, and it looks like it's keyed there, and so now I can remove the cone. And so there's the non-drive side cone. Okay, so I'm back over here on the drive side, and we can pull this axle out and see what there is to see here. As far as I can tell, the cone looks okay. Now I'm going to carefully pry out this dust cap here and try not to damage it. Like that. Now I'm not seeing anything obvious right offhand, but I'll pull these bearings out of here and I'll get everything all cleaned up. Could be that just the bearings are just so extremely worn that it was causing it to act funny. And then I'm back over on the non-drive side here, so I'm going to carefully pry out this dust cap here, like that. And there just seems to be too many bearings in here. I think that's the issue, that there's just too many bearings. Somebody overhauled this thing and they put too many bearings in. Okay, so here's the bearings I pulled out of the hub. There are 20 bearings, so there were like 10 bearings on each side. And typically on a rear wheel, there are 9 bearings on each side. So it's like somebody tried to squeeze in an extra bearing on each side, and that would have caused a problem like that. Well, I'm going to clean this stuff all up and get ready to put it back together again. Okay, I'm ready to start putting this thing back together here, and so I'm going to start off with putting together the drive side here. So I'll put the cone on and screw it way on. Okay, so once I have the cone on, then I can slide the spacer on here, and you can see wear marks on this spacer here where it had been rubbing on there. And so now I'm going to install one of the little lock nuts onto here. And I want to have about 20 millimeters here from the end of the axle to the lock nut there. And then I'm going to screw the cone back out like this. And then from here, I'll go ahead and tighten the lock nut and cone on this side of the axle. So I get this all locked together here like this. These are the bearings that came out of the rear wheel, and I measured them, and they're 1/4 inch, and that's very typical of rear wheels. Generally, most rear wheels have 9 1/4 inch bearings on each side, and so I have some brand new 1/4 inch bearings, so I'm going to install these into the wheel. Now I'm going to pack the race here in the hub with grease, and that'll help hold the bearings in place there. And I have some brand new 1/4 inch bearings here, and so I'm going to place these one by one into the race, and they should form a continuous circle around the race there with 9 bearings. So there's 9 bearings, a nice continuous circle. So how somebody tried to squeeze 10 in there, I do not know. Okay, now I'm going to try to get the dust cap in here without damaging it, and that can be a little tricky. Just try to get it in there nice and straight, and then just kind of maybe tap around and try to get it in there nice and evenly. Try not to use too much force because you don't want to damage these things because they're hard to replace. And there, I got that in on that side. Now same thing on this side is I'm going to pack the race here with grease. Get lots of grease in there to hold the bearings and also keep them lubricated after you get them in there. And then I'll install 9 brand new bearings into here. And there we go, a continuous ring of 9 bearings. And then go ahead to install the dust cap here. And can I get this seated down there? And then just carefully tap it down into place until it's fully seated around down in there. Like that. Okay, so I have my axle here, and I'm going to put a little bit of grease just on it here in where it's going to be going inside the hub there, and just to kind of help keep it from getting rusty and stuff in there. I throw a little bit on the threads here too, and a little bit over here for just the heck of it. Put it over there. And now this part here is for the drive side here, and this is the non-drive side here. So I'm going to put this in from the bottom up to right here. Careful not to knock any bearings out, and make sure it turns nice and smoothly, and it does. And then I'm going to use a vise here to kind of hold the axle on the bottom side, and then just slightly clamp that into place, and then use or screw on the cone here, and I'm going to screw it down until it makes contact with the bearings, just so they're finger tight, and then kind of back it off just a little bit, maybe about 1/8 of a turn. And now I have that keyed washer, and so I'm going to slide this down onto there like that. And then I have my lock nut here, and I'm going to screw this down here. I'll hold this with the cone wrench, and I'm going to tighten the lock nut down against the cone like that. Pull this out of the vise and feel how it feels. It turns pretty smoothly, and there's no play there. That actually feels pretty good there. So again, I'm going to put this back down to the vise, just kind of hold it temporarily here. Like this. And then tighten it down more here so that's nice and tight there. Again, pull it out of the vise, feel, turns nice and smoothly, and then there's no play. I'm ready to remount the freewheel onto the hub there, so put just a little bit of grease around the threads there, and thread this on, and it should just spin right on like that. And then I'll use the tool here, fit this into there like this. And I'm not going to be, I don't need to clamp, really crank this on. Just kind of like, bring it on there sort of taut, because riding it will actually tighten it on there more. So like that. Now I'm ready to remount the wheel on the bike. Well, I remounted the wheel, so let's give this a shot here and see how it looks. And there's still a very slight bit of wobble, but a lot less than there had been, and the wheel's moving much more smoothly than it had. Well, out of curiosity, I swapped out the freewheel with a different one to see what would happen. Let's go ahead and give this one a shot. And okay, while there's still just a touch of wobble there, there's definitely less wobble than the other one had. The wheel's running smoothly, and I think if you were riding this bike, you wouldn't even notice anything at all here. Definite improvement. I think this is doable. Anyway, hope you found this useful or interesting. If you did, please click like on my video. If you're not subscribed to my channel, click the big subscribe button because you get to see new videos as they come out. I'm always coming out with new videos. I'm over on Facebook, RJ the Bike Guy. Go over there, like that page. I post a lot of stuff over there. And I have a webpage, rjthebikeguy.com. Go over there, sign up for that page. I have all my videos categorized. I also have forums where you can ask questions. Anyway, thank you very much for watching.